when we look at, I guess I should move this. Can you hear? No, okay. When we look at the very condensed, short explanation of Chenrezig from Kala Rinpoche so long ago, it may or may not be clear, but there's just almost nothing in that that can be removed. So we are used to, in the practice of Chenrezig and many other of the Vajrayana practices that we might do, we are used to a situation where, to some degree, we have a movable feast, kind of a smorgasbord of practices, where some of them sections, modules, becomes your favorite, or they become my favorite, in which case you hear them a lot. And then somebody else practices at home and thinks like, well, I really like this section, so maybe they pay more attention to that. And yet there are pieces that are never removed, like refuge and bodhicitta and dedication and so on. So in the long run, it's important to learn those pieces that are removable and movable and can be expanded in a sense of doing them longer, shorter, and all, and others which can't be. They need to be like this and not like that. So that when you have the text in front of you and you're alone practicing it, or with friends practicing it, it becomes a little bit flexible, so that you can engage in the practice in ways that are personally inspiring. So my first example of that is what we call the prayer to the Lamas of the Mahamudra lineage. So without that lineage, we might not, it's probably more likely to say we would not be sitting here today. So that lineage, which is the source of the practices, that group of great teachers who kind of own the responsibility for making sure that the things are not lost and that they remain intact and all, that there's a certain way in which we like to give thanks for that. And the way that we acknowledge that in one prayer on page 1 of your text is to recite the names of those individuals in the lineage who are directly responsible for what we have today. Every meditation practice that we have has a lineage. Sometimes the lineage kind of spawns many different practices, and sometimes a practice spawns a lineage. So if we go to page 1, we almost never recite this. Therefore, today is a good day. So this is the little section, that one can take out and take in again, the prayer to the Mahamudra lineage. And so what we're going to do is we're going to recite it from page 1 to page 6, through page 6. And Melinda, on the beat. Shepa Dorch Odao Shunuke Badando Som Kemba Keno Tu Drogon Rechengeno Pondra Sona Dorjekeno Drupchen Kama Pakshikeno Rupogen Chembokeno chen sawe lama keno yedam kil kola tso keno kyom magon jandre keno so Chen boy zigne chak chen elu to par zojik. Post an historical note that there are a number of us in this room who have seen new names added to this. So that is, if you make a note to yourself, that is an optional piece, reading the prayer to the lineage, but good to do regularly to develop a kind of nice connection and to sing it pleasantly. Not so important to know the individual names, though you may do a little research and enjoy that. It's important rather to have a high respect for the lineage source of our practices. So now, that one, let's say optional, then we come to begin with going for refuge. And on page 9 that starts, and then on page 11, 10 and 11, and it stops at the end of page 11. So this is also kind of a required piece of the text. So we'll recite this prayer now. Let me just make sure maybe we started on page 7. We started on page 9. Nyombe sem chen dam je no dine zonde jise jan cho nyembo la chike ba kyab sutyo yedam kil korgi latso nam la kyab sutyo sangye chom den de nam la kyab sutyo dam pe chu kyab sojo pabe gendun nam la kyab sojo pawo kandro chochon some so yeshegi shendan den ba kyab sojo manren lam tompa nam la kyab sojo madam kil kor so nam la kyab so je chom den de nam la kyab so jo nam be chu nam la kyab so jo pa be gendun nam la kyab so jo pa wo kandro cho chon so me so ye she gi shen dong den ba nam la kyab so jo pa den la ma dam ba nam la kyab so jo ye dam kil kor ngi lat so nam la kyab so jo sanje chom den de nam la kyab so jo chu nam la kyab so jo ape gandun nam la kyab so jo pawo ro cho chon so me so ye she gi shen dong den ba nam la kyab so jo chodan so ki chodam la jan chu ba du da ni kyab so da ge jin so ji pe so nam gi dro la pen chi son je dru bar jo je che dan so ki cho nam la jan ju bar du da ni kyab su da ge jen so ji pe so nam gi dro la pen chi son je dru bar yo je cho dan so ki cho nam la jan ju bar du da ni kyab su da ge jen so ji pe so nam gi dro la pen chi son je dru bar yo. So just for those of you who are kind of new at this, we just did 2 refuge prayers. One of them began on page 9 and finished on page 10. And the second one began on page 11 and finishes on page 11, repeated 3 times. So the trick here is that you must do refuge. So that's not optional. But which refuge prayer you use is. And if you want, you can do more than one, but generally speaking, you do 1. And sometimes you do 2. So that's an option. You might note that for the future. So now we're on page 12. Correct me if I'm wrong. At the top it says generating the visualization. It is I think the truth that we really do live in a world of fantasies and illusion, which is actually not a real problem, except when you don't notice it. And the idea in this practice, like many similar practices, is to get us in touch with, one way to say it, what is the same and what is different, what is known and what is unknown. When we generate the visualizations for Chenrezig, we can have a sense of doubt. We can have our confidence crimped a little bit by virtue of not believing in what it is we're visualizing. But you can start at any point, today, last year, at any time, and hold the view that all day long, when I go about through my ordinary activities in the world, I'm constantly visualizing, measuring, judging, making changes, not noticing that I'm making changes, engaging in an uncountable number of mental activities which invariably have an effect upon us in that moment, in the next moment, in the next day, in the next year, we would even say in the next lifetime. We are having effects put in place indefinitely, and the problem really is we don't notice it. So because we don't notice it, we have no relationship with what we call karma. We can't have a relationship with what we call karma because we didn't notice when we planted the seeds. So when the new seed sprouts, we don't know where it came from. We never know where it came from. The truth is that we never know where it came from anyway, even if we do pay attention, because the teaching on it is that karma is not a momentary thing. Karma reaches far beyond the boundaries of today, tomorrow, of this life, even beyond multiple lives. So we are continually experiencing the results of actions of body, speech, and mind that were started way before this life. Generally, we even go so far as to say that the majority of the karma we experience in this life began before the previous life. In other words, what I do and say today, I may be able to see the connection between that and something else, but actually, the myriad of things that are ripening and coming about all the time, it doesn't even occur to me to try and figure out where it came from, and it would be fruitless to do so anyway. So if you ponder that for a little bit, you can easily come to one of two conclusions. Either it's a bunch of baloney, and it just doesn't work that way, which is, in our culture, a totally reasonable judgment. However, if you're wrong, that's a problem. You will never know, and you will always have this sense of, why me? But if you hold the view that karma actually extends way beyond the boundaries of this life, the why me completely vanishes. So you save yourself the trouble of trying to find out who to blame when it was you a long time ago, and now you can't remember. That's a very confusing scenario. So it's not an issue of belief. Many great teachers, and I feel personally like this is a very helpful thing to hold. Belief is not helpful. Belief solidifies possibility. Belief ultimately becomes something that we have to overcome. But to hold softly a view, like the possibility of things, is actually more useful along the way. So when we come to the visualization, we're going to generate some of the things that we saw from Kala Rinpoche's short thing. And we'll engage in those visualizations and move through them. One thing to keep in mind, that if there is a truth to karma, if karma is actually a functional process in some way, then it makes great sense to pay attention to how we treat ourselves and how we treat other people. Since that karma will ripen for sure. That's one of the great teachings, is no such thing as karma that doesn't ripen. So that's great. If your karma is good, not so good if it's not. So you pay attention to how you treat yourself and others in the most respectful, the most careful, the most helpful way all the time, holding the view that every last thing that I do carries a result, not only to me, but for others who know me and meet me. It just happens like that. That way, if karma is true, it's great for you and everybody else. And if it's not true, it was still a good thing to do and filled with joy and other things. So that is my personal summary of karma. Thank you very much. Now moving on. First, let's say that we're not going to finish this by the time lunch rolls around. So there's another little piece that is helpful for those of you who are not familiar with it. It's fun approaching this, I gotta say, fresh. It's enjoyable to talk about it freshly, like as if it never happened before. And it's enjoyable to finish some section. So it's common that we can do practices that go on even for days. But you come to the end of a section and you finish at appropriate places, and then you go about your business. You have another ceremony, or you eat lunch or something, or it's the end of the day. You do that thing, and then you all come back, and we start at the same place where we left off and go a ways down that way, and then it's dinner time. So then you do something around that also. So we'll finish before dinner time in case that worried you. But so here we start the visualizations that were part of Kala Rinpoche's thing. I promise that at some point in the not too distant future, I will clean that document out and make something that could be handed out, so that there's a summary thing there that is interesting to look at. And again, maybe on a day when there is no time, or a day that's filled with grief or whatever, you have something that you can go to that is like very simple and straightforward and condensed. And that it comes from somebody like Kala Rinpoche to boot. So, continuing, let's begin to do the visualization, which will take us first up to page 14 from just 13 and 14. So let's do that together. I would like to do this piece in English. So again, you can sing it on your own, or you can recite it in English. And since everything that we say here is recorded, of course, forever, you can, at least until forever comes to an end, you can go and find the tune, hopefully, and recite it and improve on it and so on. So page 12 and 13, Melinda.
On the front of myself, sentient
Beings pervasive as space is a lotus and moon seat. There's Chenrezig, light radiating five-colored light, smiling and gazing with compassionate eyes, the first pair of his four hands joined together. The lower two hold a crystal mala and a white lotus, adorned with jewels and silk. Is a deerskin upper garment. His head ornament is Amitabha, and his two legs sit in the Vajra Asana. A stainless moon supports his back. Okay, so we have that vision in front of us at this point, which was referenced in a shorter way from Kala Rinpoche's piece. So now we're up to the homage of Chenrezig, so that's page 15. The homage, by the way, is not generally considered optional, so let's go ahead and recite this 3 times as usual. Kungi magu kudo kazo tsong je chi ola tu je chen ji drola zi chen re zi la cho te jo wo kungi magu Kodo karzo tsonje chi ula tu je chenji drola zi chen re zi la cha lo jo wo kungi mago kodo Zonje chi ola tu je chenji drola zi chen re zi la cha lo. Let's recite the homage once more in English. Noble one, untainted by the mire, your form is luminous white. A perfect awakened one adorns your head. With the eyes of compassion you gaze upon beings. To Chenrezig we bow. Now we come to an optional piece which we often do not include, but it is fine to include it every time since it basically summarizes the entire Mahayana path. So that is the 7-branch prayer on page 17. Up to what? Tell me. 20? 21. 21. Okay. 17 to 21. So let's recite that together. Let's do it once in Tibetan and once in English. Abba Chenrezig Wang Dong Chu Du Ju Bai Da Ke Dang Che La Ku Ne Dang Wei Cha Tse Me Tok Du Pu Ma Me shall ze la so ngo jo yi ki tro ne bo pa pe so ki she so tok ma me ne da te mi ge chu dan sa me Seminyo Mongyo Dig Batam Chezamai Durang Yel Janchu so so ke wo la so ge wa chi sa pe so na la ni da yi sam chen nam ki sam pa dan lo yi je dra chi ta che chum ma tek pa yi chu ki ko lo ma ji son ma tong ba nyang men da tu je chan so jin wa yi sem chen nam la zik su da gi so nam chi sa pa tam che jan ju 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 ring bo me tok dro wa yi dren be pa du da gyor chi Chenrezig, I pray to you. Deeds. Virtues, Rakas, Vajeka Buddhas, Sattvas, and ordinary people gather throughout the three times.
I pray for the wheel of Dharma to be turned, the teachings of the Mahayana and Hinayana in ways suitable for the different aptitudes and motivations present in sentient beings. Until samsara is completely empty, please do not pass into Nirvana, but look with compassion upon sentient beings
Drowning in the ocean of suffering. May whatever merit I have gathered be the cause of enlightenment for all. Without delay, may I become a noble guide of beings. Like the seven branch prayer, the prayer of Chenrezig Gelong Pema Karpo's heart practice is also an optional prayer. However, this particular piece is really quite beautiful, both for those who can sing and for those who can't but can listen. Here we have first of all, in the beginning on page 23, we begin with another homage. And the homage we can recite in English or Tibetan, either way. But the prayer is so beautiful, I think that it's worthy of being recited once in English and once in Tibetan. And first, maybe we'll do it in English. However, before we do that, let us just take a moment, say a few things about what the prayer is about. It goes up until page 30. And this prayer Starts out with, I pray to you, Lama Chenrezig. I pray to you, perfect noble Chenrezig. So there's another homage like we had before. And that goes up to page what? When do we come back to this? One. What we're doing here is traditionally the realms of the illusory world are divided into 6 categories. So we don't need to pay too much attention to why there's 6 and not 7 or less than 6 or whatever, but rather that in general we could say there are different environments, psychically and mystically, one could propose, where sentient beings, they're born into those places and they, due to the force of karma, and some of them are excellent places and others are not so good. And so what's happening here is that we are engaging in a prayer of aspiration that these beings would be freed from the suffering in these realms. And the method by which they become freed is by the force of Chenrezig's compassion. And so what we do is that not that Chenrezig needs encouragement, but we need to have the sense of encouraging, like, please help all of these beings so that these realms will be emptied rather than continuing indefinitely. So I think it'll become clear as we go through it, the meaning of it. We go up to page, is it 30? It is 30, isn't it? 30 is the last page, okay. Let's go up to page 30. Sorry, 23, thank you so much. So, good. Pray to you, Yidam Chenrezig. I pray to you, perfect noble Chenrezig. I pray to you, refuge, protector Chenrezig. Pray to you, Lord of love Chenrezig. Victorious and compassionate one, hold us with your compassion for beings experiencing unbearable suffering, wandering numberless in endless samsara. There is no refuge other than you, protector. Grant the blessing to attain all-knowing Buddhahood. Propelled by negative karma accumulated from beginningless time, sentient beings are born in hell, force of anger, and experience the suffering of heat and cold. May they be born in your presence, Supreme Deity. Om. Propelled by negative karma accumulated from beginningless time, sentient beings are born in the Yadak realm by the force of greed and experience the suffering of hunger and thirst. May they be born in the perfect realm, the Potala. O Mani Padme Hum. Propelled by negative karma accumulated from beginningless time, sentient beings are born as animals by the force of bewilderment and experience the suffering of stupidity. May they be born in your presence, protector. O Mani Padme Hum. Propelled by negative karma accumulated from beginningless time, sentient beings are born in the hidden realm by force of desire and passion, and experience the suffering of excess activity and frustration. May they be born in the perfect realm of Dewa Chen. O Mani Padme Hum. Propelled by negative karma accumulated from beginningless time, sentient beings are born in the demigod realm by force of jealousy and experience the suffering of fighting and quarreling. May they be born in O Mani Padme Hum. Propelled by negative karma accumulated from beginningless time, sentient beings are born in the God realms by the force of pride, and experience the suffering of change and falling. May they be born in the realm of the Potala, O Mani Padme Hum. Life after life, with actions equaling Chenrezig's, may I liberate beings from impure realms, spread the perfect sound of the 6 syllables in the 10 directions. By the power of praying to you, noble one, may the beings to be trained by me take heed of action and result as activity. May they possess the Dharma for the benefit of beings. Now we're going to do that in English again, but just first, let us just look at the sections and what is actually happening here. First, the homage is clear, I think, from page 21 forward. Then we have on page, am I missing 22? 21. Okay. Where we say, I pray to you, Lama Chenrezig, this is part of the homage. We go forward to 24. And then we come to 25, where we say, propelled by karma accumulated from beginningless time, sentient beings are born in hell by the force of anger. So do not associate this with hell realms in other spiritual traditions. Personally, I think it's not a great choice of words, but there's a significant difference, which I don't want to go into right this moment. But if you feel compelled, bring it up this afternoon. What we're doing here is we're acknowledging that sentient beings experience ripening karma from previous lives. Sometimes that karma is excellent and helpful, other times it's really awful. So it ranges from the kind of joyful, blissful things that we have all the way to the worst possible torture. And so we are essentially asking, if you follow it, propelled by negative karma accumulated from beginningless time, sentient beings are born in hell by the force of anger and experience the suffering of heat and cold. So heat and cold are 2 of the primary things associated with the hell realms. May they be born in your presence, Supreme Deity. So we've just laid out the situation, is what we've essentially done. And then we say, O Mani Padme Hum. And when we say, O Mani Padme Hum, we imagine that from Chenrezig's heart, this brilliant 5-colored light, but mostly white light, radiates out like almost explosive. It goes to all the realms, all of the worst realms to the best realms, because the best realms, the God realms, are also within samsara. So those beings inevitably, unless something happens, they will cycle through the worst realms to the best realms and the worst realms, and that'll just keep going. So Chenrezig radiates this light, which instantly purifies the karma that brings about these unfortunate circumstances, and also in the moment removes the suffering and its causes. So let's acknowledge at this very point, anyone could have some serious logical doubt about this. So I just want to put that on the table and say, well, I'm sure we'll bring that up this afternoon and rid ourselves of it. Okay? So let's go to the last part of that prayer also. Trained by me. Okay. Life after life. This is on page 29. Am I correct? Life after life with actions equaling Chenrezig's. So we're talking about this me, my actions equaling Chenrezig's. This is our aspiration. May my actions equal Chenrezig's actions. May I liberate beings from impure realms and spread the perfect sound of the 6 syllables, which is the mantra, Mani Padme Hum, in the 10 directions. 10 directions is a common phrase in the kind of that way that these things are put together. 10 directions means every direction. It's a shorthand for the 8 directions that we commonly find on a compass, plus up and down. So in all directions, syllables in the 10 directions means all directions. By the power of praying to you, perfect noble one always means Chenrezig, no matter what the practice. It's almost exclusively that, with some rare exception. May the beings be trained by me. May the beings to be trained by me. So don't step back from this and saying that that's too arrogant for me. No, this is the point where you step up to it and own it and do something about it. May the beings to be trained by me take heed of action and result. That is to say, take heed of karma coming here. Be careful what you think and do and say, and strive for virtuous activity. May they possess, those beings to be trained, the Dharma for the benefit of beings. Simple. That's what's basically going on with each of those stanzas. Before we move on, I think we should recite or look at, we can recite it too, on page 30 at the bottom in italics. This prayer was recited by the great Siddha, Tongtong Gyalpo, as he recalled the words from a former life. At one time, he was born as the monk Pema Karpo, practicing the Nunye from age 20 to 80. He supplicated with these words and one pointedly to noble Chenrezig. Hence the prayer indeed possesses the supreme of blessing. Tongtong Gyalpo. So he remembered that prayer, which he says was from a previous life when he was Pema Karpo. Okay. Now it gets slightly confusing. 23, thanks. Let's come here. I'm just thinking, well, here. Should we break for lunch? Is it the right time? One or two heads saying yes, others snoring. Announcements and lunch, huh? Is that what you mean? Okay. Set. Go.
Announcements. Something else.
This is more clear, actually.
Now I've got two. So, at any rate, the first thing is about lunch, that we're not quite organized here yet for these all-day things. So one community email went out from Linda the last couple of days that said, because it's kind of cold and rainy, and we may not have the tent space, and we don't have the downstairs space, maybe go out to lunch or bring your own brown bag. Probably not everyone got that. So I think we're up to a lot of choices, which is how many brought potluck? Just raise your hand real quick. Okay, so there's enough. Yeah, I didn't know who maybe didn't get that. So potluck can happen. You'll find some place to sit around. Hopefully not right in the Sangha room, but if you need to. If you need to go out to lunch, on the back bulletin board, there's close by places that are mentioned, okay? And what time are we coming back, Lama Michael? Okay, we'll come back at 1:30, and that'll be the Q&A. Yeah, I think so. And so that's the lunch thing. Other announcements are certainly on the website. Keep in mind October 21st. We've talked about it a lot, so we won't right now. Also, 2 newer announcements. On that bulletin board, we are beginning to organize flower offerings for the altar. So if you're interested in participating and bringing flowers, Shelley Turley and Carolyn Peck are organizing that. So there's some kind of sign up back there. Also, we're looking for one person who likes to be with children every other week for when the children's program comes round. That will be when the downstairs is ready for them, to assist with Mary Woods, who is a wonderful practitioner and teacher. So if you're interested at all in that, and it can be pretty flexible, talk to me or email Mary. And that's all I know. Bill has something.
A reminder of a couple of things coming up. One is Julie's program on death and dying in November. Okay. First three Saturday afternoons in November. Also, I'm going to do something on Chenrezig practice on October 28th. It's going to end up being a mashup between what I was going to do with a 3-session program earlier this year that kind of got blown out of the water by all the renovation here. So there was one program which was Chenrezig, and it was subtitled, Just Who Do You Think You Are? So that's going to be one part. And the other one was titled Rediscovering Chenrezig. So between those two, we'll do some more Chenrezig practice. I've also had a request to do some teaching about Wondro. Solidra has been the point person for forwarding that request to me. So if there are more people who are interested in that, please talk to Solidra at lunch. Raise hand, please. There, right there. And I also had a request to do an introduction to shamatha practice for some people who are not part of the community, but I'm going to do something in the next several weeks on that, probably an evening session, just an hour or hour and a half.
That it? Good. Lunchtime. Enjoy.